Namaste and welcome. My name is Dr. Bhumika Madhav. I'm a consultant pulmonologist. Today we are going to be talking about a very important topic, which is obstructive sleep apnea. And we are going to talk about the importance of opening up the airways. Today we have with us Dr. Jayalakshmi TK Madam. She is a top chest physician in Mumbai. Thank you, Dr. Jayalakshmi, for being here today.
Thank you, Bhumika. Talking about sleep apnea is so important. It's a pleasure for me today to be here to talk to our listeners about sleep apnea.
So, Dr. Jayalakshmi, let's start with simple question. What is obstructive sleep apnea? Is it just about snoring or is there more to it?
So, snoring is a condition which is very common. Lots of people snore, but that's not a disease. So, what happens in obstructive sleep apnea is, along with the snoring, there is a blocking in the upper airway. So, this upper airway is what? It's a part of the airway from the nose up to the throat level. So, if there's a narrowing at this point, the air is not able to reach up to the lungs. This air not being able to reach the lung causes loss of oxygen in the body. It disturbs the sleep. This is called as an obstructive sleep apnea.
So, in India, there's a lot of increase in obstructive sleep apnea, especially among the young population. Is there some lifestyle change which has caused this?
Yes. So, as we all know, we are seeing more of a fast food advent, a generation which is having less exercise, more stress, less sleep. Many of our teenagers, young adults tend to sleep very late in the night. They wake up early or irregularly and they don't have enough exercise, they don't have sufficient rest. Work hours have also increased so much, so persons are not able to have enough time for cooking. So there's fast food, there is delayed sleep, there is less sleep, there is overwork, and there is less exercise. All of these things contribute to the growing menace, or you can say there is an epidemic of lifestyle diseases and obesity, particularly in our young population and young adults, and the middle-aged, of course. So this is contributing greatly to the development of lifestyle diseases, hypertension, diabetes, stroke, and sleep apnea is a major factor in all these illnesses and a factor by itself.
So, some people, they just feel they're tired all of the time. They fall asleep when they're sitting idle, but they do not take this very seriously. So, what are the signs of ignoring these?
So the dangers of ignoring the sleep apnea is it can be life-threatening. We talked about the diseases. Also, if a person is driving or running a heavy machinery while having a sleep apnea, this person can easily get himself into an accident. Many of the car accidents, truck accidents are caused because of the patients who don't know that they are having sleep apnea. This is the reason why pilots and all have very stringent sleep study protocols which they have to go through. But the normal driver or the normal worker is not having awareness that this is the reason why they are sleepy or tired. So this can be a very life-threatening condition in this regard.
Can diagnosing sleep apnea early prevent major issues in the future?
Yes, definitely. So sleep apnea, if it is earlier diagnosed, we can treat it earlier. The person is more aware and can start the process of losing weight, taking care of health, making the lifestyle changes. Sleep apnea also has a tendency to increase with severity as the age increases, as the obesity increases. So this can be prevented with an early diagnosis.
So sometimes the patient himself may not know that he has those symptoms, but the family members may notice. They may come to you and tell you that this patient is having these symptoms. What would you like to tell the family members to look out for and how they can help?
So this is a very important point that you've raised. Many times it's the family members who alert the patient to snoring itself. Many times the patient is not aware that they are snoring. Also the family member makes out that the person has become a little more forgetful, person is very sleepy, falls asleep during family conversations. So these are things which are easily picked up by the family member. If they go to a doctor, the doctor may not really notice these things. So once the family member notices, then it's very important for the family member also to be aware of this condition of sleep apnea. In fact, 30% of our patients are brought to us by the family members, saying that the husband is snoring or the husband is having disturbed sleep in the night. He wakes up suddenly with a jerk and there are abnormal movements during sleep. So these things are very useful when picked up by the family members.
So if somebody is listening to us right now, and if he feels that he has got obstructive sleep apnea or one of his loved one has obstructive sleep apnea, what is the most important thing you would like to tell them?
So the most important thing is that obstructive sleep apnea is an entity. It has to be diagnosed. So bring them to the physician, bring them to the hospital, get a sleep study done and start the treatment protocol. It can be treated, it can be corrected almost 100%. We have very good treatment available, and we need to diagnose early and treat in order to prevent all the future complications which we just talked about.
So many of our family members also snore. In fact, my husband and my 6-year-old child also snore sometimes. How do we differentiate between normal snoring and snoring due to sleep apnea?
So, as I said, all snoring is not a disease. Snoring can be normal. But when there is an obstructive sleep apnea, snoring has other symptoms also. So, the patient is more sleepy in the day. When you get up, you don't feel refreshed, you feel tired, irritable. The person has a tendency to fall asleep very easily. That is, he may be driving, he may be talking, he may be working, he may be just sitting in the car. All these times the patient has a tendency to fall asleep very easily, unrefreshed sleep. There may be in elderly people more of blood pressure, other illnesses. So all these associated with snoring make it a pathological condition. In children, very often because of enlarged tonsils or because of some musculoskeletal problems, in addition to snoring, they can also have sleep apnea. So this needs to be looked into.
So what are the other common signs of sleep apnea, especially during the daytime symptoms?
So the daytime symptoms of sleep apnea, as I said, when you get up, you don't feel fresh. You have a complaint of an unrefreshed sleep. You feel you have not slept only through the night. You feel tired. There can be headache. There can be fatigue. There can be a feeling of lassitude, there can be depression associated, feeling of not wanting to go to work or not interested in doing much, unable to concentrate in your daily activities, unable to do prolonged work which requires more concentration. In addition, there can be other problems like high blood pressure. There can be other issues like patient may get a stroke or heart attack or kidney disease in more severe conditions.
So if we are suspecting somebody to have sleep apnea, what is the first step that we need to take for that?
If we are suspecting ourselves or a relative to have a sleep apnea, we need to first go to a primary physician and get examined. So when a patient comes to us, so what we check is, first we check the weight and height. From this we get an information called as a BMI or the body mass index. Usually a body mass index of more than 27 can predispose the patient to sleep apnea. Also we check for the collar size, also check for the patient whether there is any hypertension. We check for hypothyroidism because thyroid patients can also have more symptoms of sleep apnea. We will check if their lung functions are all right, and we'll check the other routine investigations, and then we'll pose the patient for something which is called as a sleep study.
So we keep hearing about this sleep study. What exactly is this sleep study and what happens during sleep studies?
The sleep study is also called medically polysomnography. So what it does is it tests for many aspects of the body during sleep. So what are the aspects it tests? It tests for the oxygen. So you have a pulse oximeter which checks the oxygen saturation continuously. So there's a continuous overnight monitoring of the oxygen saturation. Along with this, the pulse rate is checked. Along with this, the movement of air into the lungs is checked by means of a chest belt and an abdominal belt. So you get to know whether the chest is moving and the abdomen is moving and how much it is moving during the sleep. Also, there is an airflow cannula which is placed near the nose, which checks for the movement of air through the nose. So what happens in sleep apnea? Apnea means stopping of breathing or cessation of breathing. So what happens? There is no airflow or there is a very less airflow. Less airflow is called as a hypopnea. So you check for normal airflow or less airflow or stopping of airflow. Plus there is a snore monitor where you are checking for snoring, and also in the advanced sleep study you have the EEG monitoring as well. So you monitor for the sleep type, whether it's a deep sleep or a shallow sleep, whether the patient has gone into a REM sleep or not, whether the patient has leg movements during sleep or not. There is also an EMG or a muscle monitor. Eye movements are also monitored to check for the REM sleep. So all these inputs go into the sleep study, and from this the machine gives out a report which is called as a sleep report, and also a complete tracing of the sleep through the night, of all these parameters through the night. All this is evaluated by the doctor to come to a final sleep study report.
So, from the sleep study report, what all information does the doctor get?
So the sleep study report gives a very exhaustive, all the details of how the patient's physiology was during sleep. Basically what the doctor is looking for is whether the patient had adequate deep sleep. So the sleep stages are seen in the sleep study report. That is, you get stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, N1, N2, N3 or REM sleep. How much each component was there in the sleep, we come to know about that. Secondly, we come to know whether there was oxygen desaturation during sleep. So the oxygen is usually maintained at 98, 99 throughout the sleep in a normal person. Now in a person with a sleep apnea, there is a continuous fall and rise of the oxygen. It dips and then comes back to normal. Dips and comes back to normal. Similarly, the airflow, there can be fluctuations. There is either partial blocking, there is a complete blocking, and then it comes back to normal when the person arouses. And then, so how do these things happen? This happens because there is a partial blocking of the breathing. So as the person is going to deep sleep, there is a partial blocking of the breathing. The blocking keeps on increasing, and then suddenly the person is aroused from that because of the low oxygen saturation. This is called as an arousal. So we come to know about arousals, we come to know about the sleep stages, we come to know about the oxygen saturation. From this we come to know whether the patient is having a mild sleep apnea, a moderate sleep apnea or a severe sleep apnea, and also about the various subtypes of the sleep apnea and how to treat. There's one other additional information which we get by doing a study which is called as a titration study. Titration study is one where you attach the CPAP and then do the sleep study. So CPAP, I'll talk about it more in detail later, but attaching the CPAP machine will give us an idea of how much pressures are required to treat the sleep apnea. So this is called as a titration sleep study.
So now that we have the diagnosis of obstructive sleep apnea, what is the next line of management? How do we treat these patients?
So we talked briefly about the CPAP machine. So there is a simple treatment of sleep apnea is, one is weight loss. So a sufficient amount of weight loss can reverse vast majority of the sleep apnea. However, usually this reversal is not complete. There will still be some amount of sleep apnea even after weight loss in majority of the patients. One of the main methods we use to treat sleep apnea is by a machine called as a CPAP. So this is nothing but a continuous positive airway pressure. So what we do is, using the machine, we put a mask on the patient's either nose or covering the nose as well as the mouth. So the mask can be a nasal mask, or it can be an oronasal mask covering the mouth as well as the nose, or it can be a nasal pillow mask which just goes into the nose, which is very small. So using these masks, you give a pressure, so that pressure, what it does, it just keeps the airway open. It's a simple mechanical tool which keeps the airway open and the air goes throughout into and the breathing gets normalized and the sleep apnea gets treated. The machine can monitor the pressure at which the airway remains open, and we can set the pressure which we want. We can set up the things in such a way that the pressure rises gradually, remains high. There is also something called as an auto CPAP which gives a fluctuating pressure depending on the requirement of the patient in each stage of sleep. This is called as a treatment by using the auto CPAP or a plain CPAP.
So what are the other ways of treating sleep apnea? Are there other devices which are there for treating sleep apnea?
Yes, definitely. So there are, depending on the pathology of the patient. Like I mentioned, sleep apnea can be there in some children. So sometimes enlarged tonsils is the only cause for the sleep apnea. So if it is persistent, can be treated by removal of the tonsils. In some patients, they have something called as a very enlarged uvula or a very large tongue or a jaw which is very much behind. So these can be adjusted by using some devices called as a mandibular advancement or some surgeries which remove some tissue from the back of the tongue. Some radio ablation therapies are there. And then there are other surgeries which try to remove the soft tissue around the throat so that it increases the size of the airway. So these are also tried as treatments for sleep apnea.
So sleep apnea is often called as a silent threat. It affects various organs of the body like brain, heart, kidney. Can you throw more light on that?
So what happens in sleep apnea is there is a continuous fluctuation of the oxygen levels in the blood. There's a continuous fluctuations as a result in the heart rate as well. This affects the blood pressure. So very often sleep apnea patients present with uncontrollable hypertension or young patients who are coming with high BP. Also, the sleep apnea can affect the brain because of the constant fluctuations in the oxygen supply to the brain. There can be patients who have forgetfulness, lack of concentration, early onset of dementia. Strokes can also happen because of undiagnosed or untreated sleep apnea. It can also lead to heart attacks. It increases the risk of heart attacks. Also, there is an increase in the worsening of kidney disease, or early chronic kidney diseases can be triggered because of the sleep apnea. It can also lead to worsening of the metabolic syndrome because of less sleep at night, leading to a high stress situation for the body, and it can also lead to increase in diabetes.
So there is a strong association of sleep apnea with obesity. Can you throw more light on that as well?
So sleep apnea has a dual relationship with obesity. As we have seen, obesity can cause sleep apnea. How does it do that? It does that because it increases the soft tissue deposition around the throat area. So this narrows the airway size. When the patient sleeps, the airway relaxes and automatically the airway gets blocked, either partially or completely. So this is how obesity can cause sleep apnea. Also, because of the lack of proper sleep in the night, there is a stress situation coming in the body. This automatically leads the body to gain more weight. So an untreated sleep apnea patient who is trying to lose weight will not be able to lose weight. The chances of success in losing weight becomes much higher when they are treating the sleep apnea and getting a good night's sleep.
So what is the role of bariatric surgery for obstructive sleep apnea?
So the role of bariatric surgery is mainly for weight reduction. Many times, or we can say most of the times, sleep apnea is associated with obesity. So weight reduction has a definite role, and in some patients who are unable to lose weight by other methods, bariatric surgery do play a role. And there are also certain medications now available which help the patient to lose weight. Patient can take use of these measures to help to lose weight so that the severity of the sleep apnea can be reduced or even reversed in some cases.
So does sleep apnea also affect the mood of the patient and day-to-day activities?
Yes, definitely. Because of the lack of proper sleep in the night, the sleep apnea patient often wakes up depressed, irritable, sleepy, unable to focus, remaining tired. It's one of the contributors for depression, and it definitely affects the mood of the patient.
So can yoga help with reducing snoring?
Yoga can help because there are certain yogic exercises and pranayams which help to increase the tone of the throat muscles, of the airway, can also help to regularize breathing. Having said that, yoga does not really correct the sleep apnea because the narrowing of the airway is a physical condition which needs treatment. So usually it needs a positive airway pressure to overcome that, or some surgical modality, or very good weight loss which can help to correct this problem.
So finally, Dr. Jayalakshmi, what is your main message to our listeners about the importance of sleep and taking sleep problems like sleep apnea seriously?
So one of the main messages to the listeners is that awareness about this problem of sleep apnea is very important. So once we are aware that this problem exists, then we can move towards diagnosing it, move towards treating it. Effective treatments are available. Weight loss is very important part of the journey. CPAP machines are available with various type of very comfortable masks which the patient can use daily and comfortably. Many patients have life-changing experiences when they start using the CPAP. So I encourage all of you to make your lifestyle changes right away so that you can prevent obesity, have a better health, and diagnose sleep apnea if the symptoms are there.
Thank you, Dr. Jayalakshmi, for the wonderful podcast today.
Thank you, Dr. Bhumika. It was very nice speaking to you today.